I've been in this brief devotional series on stewardship, the idea of shepherding our resources, whether it's time or talent or treasure, in a way that honors God. And as we talk about giving, particularly as we approach the holiday seasons, sometimes giving can feel like a burden, a duty. Where does the proper motivation come from to be generous? And the clear answer from the scripture is that the fountainhead of generosity, of giving, is joy. Now, where do we get that joy? Let me read from 2 Corinthians chapter 9, as Paul talks about the fountainhead, the source of our giving. He writes there in verse 10, "He who supplies seed to the sower," he's talking about God, "and increase, he gives seed to the sower and bread for food, will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way to be generous in every way, which through us will produce thanksgiving to God. For the ministry of this service is not only supplying the needs of the saints, but is also overflowing in many thanksgiving to God. By their approval of this service, they will glorify God because of your submission." There he's talking about the Corinthians giving to other Christians in need, "of your submission that comes from your confession of the gospel and the generosity of your contribution for them and for all others, while they long for you and pray for you because of the unsurpassing grace of God upon you. Thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift." God gives, and we're joyful, and it overflows to those around us. That's really the simple equation of that. Our joy overflows, and it takes practical shape in helping others enter into the joy that we have, God's joy. Now wait, how does that come again? Joy comes through submitting ourselves to the needs of others, to the mission of God, to love him, love our neighbor. But it's a submission that comes through a confession of trust in Jesus' provision for you. God has been good to me. Do I believe it? And will I let that joy spring up and then spill out to others? You know, there's a certain satisfaction in seeing someone else experience satisfaction in the gifts that we give. Maybe you've had this experience too. It's holiday season. It's time for buying gifts. I have to admit, I am not a shopper. I am not a good gift giver. I struggle to know what is the right thing to give. I don't want to fail. I want the other person to be happy, but it really feels like a duty, an obligation, an oppressive obligation. And I struggled when my nieces and nephew came around. I struggled with gift giving, and I was single at the time. I didn't have my wife's help to figure these things out. What am I going to get them? So one year I was looking for Christmas gifts, and I'm wandering through the toy section, struggling in my avuncular duties, and then I see it. I see a gun, not a real gun, but a gun that shoots Nerf darts. It was one of the first ones to come out, and I thought, oh, this is what my nephew needs. So I paid the $10. You know, shows you how long ago it was. Now it'd be like $40. I was glad to have done the duty, and then Christmas Day comes. My nephew opens the dart gun, and it wasn't just passing. He's like, "Oh, thank you, Uncle Daryl." It was a hit. They loved it. It was a toy most played with that day, and for many days after. And it was a certain pride because I had won the gift-giving competition. But really, even better was the fun that we had. It was the best $10 I ever spent. It may be that our joy is never complete until we can add to the joy of others, until we give ourselves away, until we give ourselves in a way we know that is appreciated. Joy is the fountainhead of generosity. Because that next Christmas, I look forward to getting a gift for my nephew and my nieces. As you think about following Christ, following the Lord, we're often asking, oh, what do I have to give away? But we need to think of it differently. We need to think of it this way. The Lord has given me so much. How can I share that? How can I add to someone else's joy? And the return to you will be tenfold as you together share in the joy that God has given you. May the Lord have blessings on you.